I don't hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
First off, I like to start this episode by dedicating it to my stepmom, Stephanie Rogers, who just passed away this week. I love you. You pretty much changed the whole trajectory of my life just from meeting you. I'm going to miss you. And my biggest regret is that I won't be able to have a conversation with you again. Hope to see you again somewhere. Love you, Stephanie Rogers. Miss you. Can't wait to see you again somewhere. Now you could join Grandma wherever she is, and y'all could be having a good time talking, laughing, eating crabs, and doing what y'all do. All right. So, welcome to Permission to Speak Freely. This is called an introduction, something that we normally don't do. But
I know, but hey. So the reason why we don't normally do it because somebody be having some malfunctions. I guess be having malfunction, but not today.
Oh, I guess you talk about. I guess. Oh yeah.
I guess. Yeah, we normally have some malfunctions, but we good today though. We good.
I guess I always had technical. I saw the technical difficulties at the beginning, just trying to get synced up, everything like that. But I'm gonna introduce my our guest for this week. Near and dear to my heart, one of my old division officers, one of my favorites, Lieutenant JG Charles Davis.
I see how it is. You get an officer in the mix, we do introductions, and we formalize the process a little bit, huh? Process improvement. That's good.
I got place settings. If you look over, I got my cell phone right here with the salad fork.
We never do that before. We never do nothing like that before.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, what's just straight up what you been up to?
Well, I've been kind of all over the place, I guess, since I last saw you. I was on this ship up until June. I had orders to kind of leave in August, so the plan was the ship would pull in from patrol. I'd quickly kind of get my stuff, and I'd go on into school in Newport, which is where I am now. However, like any good set of orders, they got shifted to the left and changed. The ship schedule changed, so they kind of made a last-minute decision to get me off in Okinawa. So I went from Okinawa back to Yokosuka, kind of ran a little ragtag group of sailors there that were also leaving. So I did that for about a month, came back to San Diego, moved out of my house and stuff, and then made a cross-country road trip to North Carolina, did some vacation there, was down in South Carolina a little bit, and then made the road trip up here to Rhode Island. So I've kind of been everywhere the last couple months. So, but right now settled up here in Newport, doing some school, getting some good Navy funded education. And then I'll be up here till, November-ish, and then I'll be going to my next ship right after that down in Florida. So pretty exciting stuff for the most part.
So the first ship, right? The first Divo tour. We're not gonna go too deep yet, but the first ship. What was your job? What was your job on the first?
So I came in. I took over for a really struggling EE div. I was the electrical officer, so they put me in.
I think I said we're not gonna go that deep yet, but here we go.
So I was, I'm a surface warfare officer, right? So we serve on ships. I did my first tour of duty as the electrical officer for about 14 months. And then I shifted over to be the first lieutenant, which is, the deck guy, for another 14 months. And then, like, the waning week of my time on board, I was back in engineering doing the assistant chief engineer thing. So pretty diverse. Yeah. It was literally like a week, though. So I didn't even really have a box. So I don't know if that counts.
So what's next? What you in school for?
So right now I'm doing the ADOC, right? The Advanced Division Officer course. It's the prerequisite for anybody to go to their second tour SWO-wise, and then I have surface navigator school right after that, so to be in the nav on USS Next Ship.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And you said you ran a ragtag group of sailors for a little bit in Yokosuka, right?
Yeah. It was like the island of lost toys. Basically, it was all the people PCSing or like being separated from the Navy. So that was an interesting dynamic of people, but fun, but just different.
Yeah, how many going away party? How many going away parties was in that group?
Quite a few. I'm gonna say it coincided with the time the Haunch reopened for a brief period of time in Yokosuka. So that was is what it was.
All right, well, dang man, what you been up to, man?
Oh man, shit! I've been on these ships, man, trying to make these ships a little bit better, man, material wise, Yeah. But other than that, man, I've been having a good time though, man. I've been chilling, just joining my a new gym. You know, up here where I'm at, up here in
Planet Fitness?
Temecula. No, it's nah, I ain't joining Planet Fitness, man. You gave me me too much of the rundown on Planet Fitness. I'm not messing with them, man. I got this EOS. It's called EOS gym. It's pretty good, man.
Yeah,
you know,
like you gotta wear
pretty
mask.
good. So, no, man, no mask, man, no mask in there. And man, it's some motivation in there, man. Everybody, they be working. They got like little side stuff with the little grass going. You can go out there and do your little work on the grass. It's pretty good, man.
Your son, when is he starting boot camp?
November the 1st, man. Yeah, man, I can't wait. He can't wait. But you know what? I thought about it for a minute, man. When he was going to boot camp, I was like, you know what? Now I'm gonna get to visit places, man. Like, so I'm even hoping he don't get San Diego.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's right down the street. I'm hoping he gets somewhere else so I can go visit and do other things, man, like that with me and my wife. But yeah, man, I'm ready for him to go, man. The kids just started back school, so that's a good thing too. Yeah, man, everything's good on my side, man.
Hopefully you get.
How about you?
Hopefully you get Maryland, man, so you could come visit me.
Yeah, most definitely, man.
Yeah, man.
Most definitely.
Hopefully your son gets stationed in Maryland. That'll get you.
He's an IT, so you know he can go all over the place. He's gonna be an IT, so
yeah,
be good.
Me, not much. You know, we found out my stepmom passed on a couple days ago, probably Tuesday, I want to say, Wednesday, and you know, just dealing with that, you know, that part of it, and after that, just. You know, me and my wife already had tickets to go see Ali Wong, so a little date night thing. I would never call it a date night. We just was out, but that's what she actually coined it. So she coined it.
Yeah. Date night, man. Don't try to don't try to deny what's going on, man. You had a date night. You had a date night, man. Don't try to deny that.
Yeah.
Date night.
Try to take a chapter. Try to take a chapter out of your book.
Oh yeah, I'm date nighting it up, man. I be date nighting it up.
So we went to see Ali Wong. It's the dude before her was hilarious, but I can't like it. Then she came on. She was hilarious. It was a very, very centered to women. You know what I'm saying? Like you might feel like you ain't shit listening to her talk, but it was good though. It's Ali Wong. I mean, if anybody familiar with her, she pretty good. That's it. Nothing else. Getting back to work. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on at the Capitol. I think last week, and then dealing with the refugees, the Afghan refugees. We will be like directly impacted. My region will be directly impacted by that in some form of fashion or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I mean, let's get back to our guests and let's kind of. I'll start off. I get very transparent real quick.
Okay.
So, well, I think one of the craziest moments in my career. I don't even know if you know this, Damon, but one of the craziest moments in my career, right? And this probably the only real personal part of it, because I do want to talk a lot about like general officer stuff, because we have an officer. But one of the craziest moments. So you know, I get to the ship, doing what I normally do, right? Working hard, busting ass, right? Series of a real series of unfortunate events happens like in a row, and I'm part of it, right? Every single unfortunate event, I'm kind of like part of it, right? So then we get a new Devo, and I'm like, oh shit, all right, here we go, new life. Let's like, this is it, like motivated. Let's go, let's work. So we gonna work hard. We gonna get our Devo trained up to where Devo need to be, so Devo could know whatever's going on, get on their own and get shit done. Something I could say that I never saw the greatest of before I became a chief. But so one day another unfortunate event happens that somehow I'm to blame for this event, right? And I'm not gonna get too deep in the event, but I'm to blame for it all, right? So me and my new Devo, who I'm working with, we kicking ass together like every single day, no matter what the unfortunate events led, the division to look like or feel like. We're working, we busting ass, we know who we are. So we go up to talk to at the time XO, but his door's closed and he's talking to the department head, and it's like about like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, I know where you're going now.
Like,
all right, yeah.
I like EMC, but I don't know what's wrong. Like, it's something going on, man. I like him. I like the guy. He's a good guy. He's, you know, and, yo, to imagine being in, like Damon first, imagine being in that position. Like, I got a new Divo. We working, we busting ass, we doing everything we got to do. But then we go up, and our XO is talking to our department head about
you.
Yeah, it's like, damn, like, and you look over to the Divo, like, fuck, man, like, what am I, like, how do I, like, does he lose respect for me? Does he believe, like, this? Does he take this in? Like, how can I, like, now I got to outwork this, you know what I'm saying? So that was, but that was early. I'm actually, at the end of the day, whatever you succeed, you could be happy for the, you know, for the bad shit. But when you don't, you kind of blame it. It's all because of that. But I mean, at the end of the day, that was I think a good thing, because it just kind of, it took away like any kind of barrier. Then that moment took away any kind of barrier, like at that time. But I don't think I ever really asked you what was going through your mind, like exactly. I know you was a little upset about something else that I don't really want to talk about, but what was going through your mind at that time just about our division when we walked up and heard that conversation?
I guess it was funny, you know, when you come on board a ship, I guess being a swallow, people don't like sugarcoat things. No one's ever like, you're going to have a great time. You're going to have a sick division. You're going to like every moment of the day. They kind of like almost are the bearer of bad news. So people are like, yeah, you're going to get there. You're probably not going to have a chief. If you have a chief, he's going to suck. The division's going to suck, blah, 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 blah. So they set you up with this like mental model of failure. At least I feel like that's the way the culture was. It's getting better. But, you know, I got to the ship and I'd heard about some of the stuff that had happened before. And I thought, well, I was like, I kind of laughed. I'm like, well, perfect. You know, this is the environment that I've been waiting on, you know? And I feel like I'm not the guy that would walk into a clean situation any time in my life. So that was funny. And then in that particular moment, I just remember my first was one of my first professional realizations that if you heard somebody like talking about you or your boy, or in this case, your chief on like in the street or something, like you heard that conversation the other side of the room, you just want to bust in and be like, hey, you know, why don't you say it to me, blah, blah, blah. So I remember that being the first time professionally thinking like, wow, we actually have to internalize this as if we'd never even heard it. Right. And then we have to proceed like respectfully and professionally as if we didn't just overhear a conversation with an open door, you know? So I was definitely upset in the moment. I was more, I guess, professionally, maybe even personally kind of offended in that I feel like it was an attack on the team, not necessarily an attack on you, but more of an attack on us as a division, kind of our brand and our reputation. So he might as well have been saying whatever about me. You know, he didn't even really know probably what my name was at that time or that I was on board or anything like that. But no, I just remember kind of taking that personally and almost using it as fuel to kind of excel and be better from that moment forward. You know?
Well,
I'm listening to it.
I tell you one thing about that XO also, though. It didn't matter what your division did or do, whatever, it was on you. It was on the chief of the Divo. So it don't matter what it was. He holds you guys like to that standard. Like, I don't care what it is. You guys' fault. It's your fault. You know what I mean? No matter what it is. But I also want to add my personal story before we get too far about you two anyway. So as I walk around the ship, and I got Divos and I got, you know, whoever with me, but you guys was probably rolling about 5 or 6 strong, like, ever since I've been on the ship. It was probably like 5 or 6.
Starting 5,
you know. Yeah, starting 5 or whatever. And it's probably one of my first times in my Navy career that you probably had a work bag or a tools in your hand more than your freaking your maintenance guys did. You was right there on side of them. You was working along with them the whole time. And I remember talking to Damo about it. And I remember like he was like, man, we got to get it. You know, like everybody's it's a team. You know, it was a real like team atmosphere. And looking for me, I didn't have that atmosphere because of the fact that we had a nice number for a DDG, so I didn't have that issue. And not saying my Divos wouldn't have did it if they wanted to or had the chance, but it's the fact that you was in the fight, you was there, and you guys was a crazy ass team from day one though. Like from the outside looking in, the team atmosphere. I saw every time I see Damo, I damn near seeing you. So you guys was always together, always getting shit done. So that was my, remembering you guys on the ship.
Yeah, man. From the divisional aspect, it was a crazy transformation, man. Like from when I got to the ship to leaving the ship, you know what I'm saying, and everything in between. But just getting to the ship and be in a division that like the CO at the time forgot to like. I think we fixed something, and the CO said that A Gang did it. And the guys, man, they called me. They were upset. And this even before you got here.
Yeah, I heard that.
They were like, Chief, man, this is it, man. Like, they didn't even, like, so, I had to call up, like, hey, that's not okay. The guys want to, they just, and it's like, and then, it's coming from me. So it's like, I want the credit. But it's really like the guys, they want their credit for getting stuff done. So from going from being that to becoming a division where people be like, oh, yeah, they only got that because they're an EM. Like that's a big, even though that's not true, but that's a big transition. And a lot of that happened in those years where we like, busting our ass to be the best division in dits and breaking records and, doing all of that stuff, man. But that shit, it came with very, very hard work. What's that face about, man?
The breaking records, that's what I'm saying. Breaking records and dits.
Record book, man. Hang a banner, man. Hang a banner in the rafters.
This is a dirty game, man. You know what I'm saying? And if you
there's
can't,
a lot of politicking involved in dick.
Listen, man. If you can't get low, if you can't get as low as your enemy, man, you're not gonna make it through dits, man. I'm sorry.
Hey,
that's where I learned to scratch backs, man. Dits.
Hey, I remember the first time like that you brought that up to me, like your scores and dits, man. You were like a 90 something, whatever. Then that's the first 98, or something like that. So. So I remember the first time you brought that up, and you know how I'm competitive. I said, man, I'm trying to try to beat these guys.
Yeah, because y'all was like
this right here, right? I remember saying this to myself. I'm finna try to beat them. So guess what I do, man? I remember this just like yesterday. I remember talking to these guys like 3 weeks out, trying to talk to them about my grades and my shit and stuff. And I still couldn't get up there to freaking in the 90s, man. I'm like, I don't know how you guys did it, man. Maybe you guys did that well because you had like 3 people. I don't know, but. I mean, you guys did a good job, man. Because I know I couldn't get up there, man, for nothing. I'm talking to them every day, like, "What's up, man? What I need to do? What I need to do?"
I remember, I think
Pusha T said, "How can you relate when you've never been great?"
I think Matt one day was like, "Man, I don't give a fuck about no Discord, man."
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. They brought up the Excel sheet which showed like the last 4 quarters of dit scores. And he obviously showed us on top. And I just remember people in the room, him specifically, just being angry. Like, man, there was the who cares crowd, and then there was like I'm offended. And I feel like I need to do better crowd. Like it was divisive.
Yeah,
Sir, so I do got one question while we're talking about dits though. So how did dits go when you changed your division, sir? How was it then?
Surprisingly well. I didn't expect it to go that well, but I also had the help of another division officer at the time who, although just a little bit more junior, was junior. So I put a lot of the work on his plate, and then, he was a smart guy and got through a lot of that stuff. But obviously, we went from a starting 5 to like having a football team's worth of people. So it was a lot more work. Sailors that find themselves in more interesting positions than an EM usually does. So just in terms of the stuff going on with them. But no, it went well, but we definitely had, I had a little bit more firepower in terms of getting the DITS program managers like what they needed and get the binders and all that stuff. So it was fine. It was a lot harder. Don't get me wrong. The binder went from being a folder to, like a whole shelf worth of stuff. So
yeah, I can imagine.
So Damon, you talked about, just the Divo Chief relationship, just being tight, being everywhere together, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. How important is that, do you think, for the division to succeed?
You asking me?
Yeah. First.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, it's very important, man. You wanna build that relationship, regardless, and more the relationship is letting the Divo know, and vice versa, that we got each other's back, man. And I think the division knows that. When the division knows that they can't play that mom and pop game with you, they know that we there to do a job. So my biggest thing I remember, like just being like tight with my Divos, when I do have a repo. Normally I have a second tour as a DCA, or, depending on what ship is, I'm on anyway. So, but I just want to make sure that they got everything they need. Mm-hmm. That's my whole goal when I get a Divo, is to make sure, especially if they're instant brand new coming in, is to make sure they got everything they need. And I've been in situations where the wardroom was like strong on getting quals and getting all their stuff done. But I also been on a ship when you was on your own as a divo and you make sure you get your stuff done. So I've been in both of those worlds, man. But I tell you this, man, when you got a good chief and a divo come in, it's so much like better as a division when you got I ain't gonna say a friend, but somebody you when you guys come to work every day, you want to be there together. You want to be there. You want to get stuff done. You got the same goal. When you sit down and have that goals of what we want to do as a division and what we want to accomplish and all that stuff. Once you guys sit down and you do all that stuff and you work out the kinks, man, you got a well-oiled machine. And I remember having these divos where we first 2 times we go to quarters and we talking over each other, right? Yeah. And I remember that like yesterday. Then I remember like, oh look, we got to meet like 30 minutes prior. Yeah. So we don't be talking over each other. But then once that stuff start happening, you start having a game plan, you start planning, and man, you a team, man. But everybody sees that, man. I don't know about you, but everybody sees that atmosphere that you guys bring to the table. The LPOs want to do that with their work center soups, and it just goes like that, man. When you got a good team.
Yeah, I saw it as a junior seller when the divo and the chief wasn't on the same page. I've seen that a lot, and not as much as what you was just talking about, where it's like people competing against, like, to see who put out the best information. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try to out information divo real quick. You know what I'm saying? We get
yeah.
Just we get to that point where we like, all right, look, this what you're always gonna talk about. This what I'm always gonna talk about. We're gonna go in there. Yeah, this is what we're gonna talk about. But Mr. Davis, like, how important is that for you as far as that relationship between the chief and the divo?
I think it's critical, and I didn't really understand how good I had it until interacting with my peers now at school. All these people had kind of a wide array of experiences, right? You had people that came to their ships and didn't have a chief, or they had a chief that kind of put them in the corner. They said, hey, you go get qualified, I'll run the division, kind of excommunicating them from anything the division's doing. And then you just had chiefs and divos that didn't get along at all. So it was a game of mom and pop, and it was a game of, well, chief said this, well, divo said this. So I think in terms of a division, it's critical that, you're a united front. The sailors understand that you both had the same goals. You're working towards the same things. But it's also critical for the officer, too, to develop and to understand, one, their role as a division officer, like what it means, how they're supposed to interact with the division and run a division, what the chief is supposed to be providing, and how he or she is supposed to be backing you up. And then a chief is also there just to orient you with the Navy. Like, these guys get on board ships, and if you're like me, you come out of OCS, you don't know where your rack is, the head is. You don't know how to do basic Navy things. You're a junior sailor with rank, essentially. So a chief is there, too, to kind of guide you in a non-embarrassing way on just how to do the Navy thing in general, and then how to lead. So I think it's critical for divos, especially seeing the ones that have not gotten that experience and hopefully get it, in their second tours, now that they actually do know something. But, without that kind of relationship, I think the division struggles and the officer struggles because they put themselves behind a timeline in terms of leadership development and knowing what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to be effective.
Now I want to take it a step further real quick and talk about fraternization, right? Because you just said something, Damon, that I was already thinking about when you said you don't have to be that friend, right? I was at a leadership training, and one of the Master Chiefs, he was giving us a story about one of the foreign navies. And the guy from the foreign Navy was like, hey, we go out together. We go out, we eat, we do things together, me and my pretty much LPO or whoever it was. And the dude was like, oh, nah, us, we were like, nah, man, we don't do that. That's fraternization. We can't do that. The dude's like, hey, ain't y'all gonna, if something happened, won't you die for this guy? Like, don't you want to, like, know this guy or whatever in a little bit more intimate way? And, then that was pretty much the end of his story. And then he was like, so that's the difference between our Navy and some other navies. Like, they actually do go out, eat together, have drinks, talk, do things like that. What do we think is so wrong with that in our Navy?
Ooh, I think I think the issue may come from the leadership issue, man, where probably when you have to reprimand somebody. I think that's where to come into, man. Like if you become like how I'm gonna get on this dude ass, he may know more shit about me than anything. Not necessarily that, but just the fact of I think that separation is key though, for us. And I think it's because of leadership though. I feel like you cannot reprimand somebody or the same way you would if you didn't know him that intimate. You know, now you got to think about what you're doing. Still, okay, this guy right here, like think about it for a second. You got a friend, you got somebody who's not your friend, right? And something happens on the ship. They can do the same thing. And I'm telling you, you're going to think differently about how you're going to reprimand this guy and how you're going to reprimand that guy. Because this guy's your friend. This guy's somebody you went out with, you done ate with, you done did this stuff with. This other guy, I don't know. They got the same thing happen. You're gonna think differently, and I think that's where it comes from, man. And I think it's a clear separation from different militaries too. That we have a chief mess to separate us from the E6 and below. I think that's great. Yeah. You know, to have NCOs like that and stuff. So yeah, that's my biggest thing. Is it come from not just a bad thing when I say like somebody getting in trouble, but a whole lot more phases of the game too. Having somebody in that in-between level that you can go to up and down the chain of command is also a good thing.
What about Divo Chief? Like, what's the aspect when it comes to that? Like, hey, after work, let's go grab a drink or two. Let's talk a little bit of shop before we go home.
Well, my take on it is that I got to fall back on my fallback when I say that. It's just an instruction that's out, man, and we know that from day one. You know what I mean? We already know that, and I'm a big fan of things are either written in blood or things are written for a reason. It's probably a reason why we separated like that, and we should be. Would I have a problem with going out and having a drink with my Divo? No, but I think it's a reason for it though. So
what about you?
I think it's interesting because we talk about the instruction. I remember when I first got to the ship, and you offered to do something as simple as like buy me a sandwich. Like we were all getting sandwiches, and like you were gonna pay for mine because I didn't have a card or whatever it was. And in my mind, I was trained to be like, no, that's fraternization, chief. You can't buy me a sandwich, man. But it is funny because as you spend more time, at least as I spent more time on the ship, I started to kind of think about it because you think about a chief and a divo, we kind of operate on the same plane. It's a lot more of in terms of a division, it's like a CO-XO relationship more than it is an officer and a chief relationship because we're kind of at the same level of leadership. And if I'm being honest, like I haven't spent much time disciplining or trying to reprimand a chief. Usually if I have issues with my chief, I talk to the DLCPO, right? Or the department head or master chief. I don't spend a lot of time directly disciplining a chief. So to me, I always thought it was weird that we didn't have a closer relationship because of how often, not me and you, I'm just saying chiefs and divos, that we don't have a closer relationship because of the fact we kind of operate on the same leadership level. We do spend a lot of time together, and our relationship is critical. If a good relationship is critical to having a good division. Now, with that, I do think it's interesting that we draw a pretty hard line that, hey, we're going to go out and get a drink after work or whatever. But then you see ships like ours that did beer on the pier, and those walls are gone. You have the most junior sailor and the CO drinking 6 feet apart, interacting. So it is weird how we draw the line there, but when we're on deployment, we want to have a beer on the pier. Some of that stuff just kind of evaporates. So maybe there will be some changes or at least some discussion on that, but I think the policy is rigid in that, I don't know, probably not, but the policy is rigid. The policy is rigid in that when something goes wrong, when one of these cases goes too far, that is what we have to back up to, and that's what we hold people accountable with.
I guess I wouldn't mind like a chief mess, Wardroom happy hour. Like, hey, let's all just, that way it's a group thing, and let's all just get together. And I had to sit down with a Divo on Liberty before, just to sit down. Like, when I first got to the division, it's like, hey man, let's sit down outside and let's have a conversation outside of work. Let's talk. I've done that.
I also think you just need to be more clarification on it, though. That when you go back talk about the instruction, though, I mean, I think it's too broad on what it talks about. It should be like broken down a little bit more. Yeah. Because junior sailors don't understand that. They don't. They always asking questions and this and that because they don't understand. So I do think it need to be revamped. You know, it's 2021. Damn near everything need to be fucking revamped. You know what I mean? We got instructions now that's back in freaking the 90s or whatever, man. Like a lot of that stuff need to be ramped. People thinking differently, doing things differently now in 2021. We just need to start looking at these instructions.
Yeah, it's because messed up people mess up things. Like, and that's pretty much the way I think. If you have a mature enough establishment that y'all could do whatever y'all want to do, get back to work and do whatever. Because I mean, like companies like Google and other professional places, they have different tiers of leadership that still goes out. Certain things they don't do, but you still go out with your people. You have a good time and stuff like that. You know, the way the Navy is, it's like, yo, if you gonna do a barbecue, make sure you invite your whole division. You know what I'm saying? You're not just gonna invite just your LPOs, sit down with your LPOs and do something like that. So, but I think it's because of the people. I've been in situations where I had friends that wasn't the same rank as me, and they sometime it became weird. You know what I'm saying? When it came to like, dude, like, you know what I'm saying? Because people see you when you put your uniform on, you kind of put your guard up in certain professional ways that wouldn't happen when you outside of uniform.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? You like, they might not know you're a klutz. they might not know you're a drunk. You know, so it's certain things that people see about you when you get outside of uniform that they might not be able to just immediately just forget all of that stuff the next day at work when they show up late and you got to talk to them like, yo, you the same dude that just fell into your drink last night. like who do you think you're talking to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's pretty rough out there too, man. Like I was thinking back when especially when you first make chief. You first make chief and you friends with all the E6 and below and your homies and you probably had a drink together. That's where it's really, really hard to, like, you know, not try to be friends with these guys no more. And it goes both ways too, though. So that's really hard right there for a lot of sailors to get rid of that habit of going talking to these guys about whatever and doing whatever. So it's pretty rough.
It's crazy. I had the benefit of always making rank as soon as I got to a new command or leaving a command or something like that. Always. So I never really knew people at the lower rank. Like, soon as I got to, after I left my first ship, I made first. Like, right after I left my first ship. Then I went somewhere else. I went TAD, I made chief. Now I'm at a brand new command and I made senior chief. So it's always, you know. But hey, let's get back to the Divo thing. All right, so we still close to entrance onto a ship, right? So, well, first off, before all of this, what even made you decide to become an officer in the Navy?
I always point back to, I guess, good role models I had in my life. So my dad, number one, was in the Navy. He served 4 years. He did his enlistment and he got out. But the stories he told me and the way he presented the Navy, I always thought, well, this is cool. Like, I want to do this. My dad's my hero. I want to follow in his footsteps. I have a great uncle who was in the Navy, also enlisted. You know, he did his 20 years, retired. Grandpa, Marine Corps. So I had a military-oriented family. I also grew up around folks in the military through organizations like AMVETS, American Veterans. So, grew up working with and volunteering with and interacting with people who had been in World War II, Vietnam, Korea, the Gulf Wars. So I always wanted to join. And I think I ultimately picked the Navy because, my dad was in the Navy, right? That's what I defaulted to. Now, the officer piece is interesting because I always thought that I was going to enlist, right? I was going to join the Navy. I was going to get my GI Bill, and then I was going to use that to go to college with after I was done, with the Navy. The officer thing started to pop in my head for a few reasons. One, I had conversations with my dad about it and kind of realized that was probably a better way to go. Two, I had watched Top Gun. If you've never seen it, great movie. Tom Cruise.
That's our movie for the day. That's our review.
Tom Cruise, super handsome jet pilot. So I was like watching that, and I was like, it'd be really cool to fly a plane. So those two things. I hate to say it's just those two. A Few Good Men, also Tom Cruise, Navy officer, right? Like, it just looked cool. It's like, man, I want to be that guy with the gold stripes on my jacket, shutting down a colonel in a courtroom or whatever. So all those kind of culminated, and that's why I realized, I'm just going to go to college. I'll figure out the money piece. I'm going to go to college and then try to get an ROTC, which didn't really work out because of just timing as far as credits and scholarships and all that stuff. So I was like, well, I got advice from the folks there in college, the ROTC instructors, hey, just finish as quick as you can, apply to OCS, you'll be an officer. Like, your timing, you really won't be that jacked up. And that's kind of where it went. So I think regardless, I was going to be in the military, but just kind of the specific experiences I had, conversations with folks kind of directed me to be a Navy officer specifically.
Okay. So if I'm a kid right now in high school, it's funny that, you know, the what made you think about the Navy was like, you know, actual war heroes. You know what I'm saying? Like, what made me think about being in the Navy was my uncle had a party and everybody put up in Benzes and BMWs and they all was retired military. I was like, man, if I want a Benz, I could join the military. And I still don't have my Benz yet, but you know that's.
You're on your way, man. You're on your way, man.
Real soon. But all right. So I'm young. I'm in high school. I'm doing great. You know, and I'm like, all right, I want to be an officer. I don't want to go the academy route. I want to go to college. What should I be thinking? Is there anything else outside of what you said already that I should be thinking about if I want to be an officer in the Navy?
I would just say first and foremost, you got to get your education, right? So if you're just trying to, you know, be an entry-level officer, right? We're not talking the LDO warrant types. That's, you know, its own path that involves enlisting and all that stuff. But if you're just wanting to join, you got to get your bachelor education done, right? And then really the question comes down to, am I going to pay for it or is the Navy going to pay for it? So if you don't want to go the academy route, obviously you have ROTC. So ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps. It's a program where you're basically, you know, you're indoctrinated into the military lifestyle. You're with the military unit there at the university, right? So you're in a group of midshipmen, you know, freshmen through seniors. You have Navy lieutenants and, you know, commanders and even 06 captains, right, that are kind of running that unit, you know, running the instruction. You do that piece. You can try to get a scholarship outright. So before you even arrive, you know, you apply, you get selected for a scholarship. You have folks that get scholarships while they're already in. So they join. Maybe they don't get that 4-year scholarship. They do the ROTC thing for a year. They apply for a 3-year scholarship. There's folks who don't get that. However, they can still stay on ROTC and commission. They just end up kind of footing the bill for college, right? Through like advanced standing, I think is their term for it. So first and foremost, though, you got to get the education taken care of. If you don't want to do ROTC, let's say you want to go to college, you want to have the full college experience. You don't want to wake up early and do PT or, you know, go do weird stuff in the summer, like get away on ships or, you know, be with different types of units. You can absolutely do that. You go through your normal undergrad process as fast as you want. And then you just work with an officer recruiter as you get closer to graduating. And those are the folks that set you up for OCS, essentially. Or, you know, if you're maybe leaning towards, let's say you're leaning towards law school or nursing school, you know, or medical school or whatever, there's specific programs that you can do there where the Navy might commission you. They might foot the bill for you to go to those specialized schools. And then you enter the service as, you know, a nurse, a lawyer, a doctor, what have you. That's kind of through more of the ODS, right, Officer Development School, even in some cases, DCO, Direct Commission Officer pipelines. So first and foremost, though, you got to get your education. You got to get your bachelor degree sorted out. And then you really got to work with an officer recruiter if you're not doing the ROTC route to figure out what options are available to you.
And then where would I find an officer recruiter? Just at the regular recruiting station?
So no. So officer recruiters are weird in that there's less officers in the military, so there are less officer recruiters. So I was lucky in that Tampa, which is, you know, a large city, had an officer recruiter there at the recruiting station. But if you're going to school, maybe you're going to a smaller school, kind of out in the boonies, it's a simple Google. The Navy also has websites that kind of provide you the location of an officer recruiter, but you might have to make a drive to go see that person, you know, an hour, 2 hours to a major city to get there.
Did you have to do interviews or anything?
So I'm trying to remember because I was applying for the ROTC scholarship, so I often get those two experiences kind of mixed up. From what I remember, I did not have to do an interview with an officer, but I did have to do things like motivational statement. So talking about why I wanted to join the community I was applying for, which I initially wanted to be a pilot, right? So I'd applied to be a pilot, and I was writing as if I were going to be a pilot, my motivational statement. You also have to take the ASTB, which you could think of as the ASVAB, just it's, you know, for officers essentially. So it's there's like an OAR, which is an officer aptitude rating that you get from that. And that kind of determines your eligibility for certain communities or to be an officer in general. And then there's even a flight portion if you want to be a pilot NFO type, where you essentially get line scores on how you perform on this weird kind of makeshift flight simulator game that they give you. But so you do those testing, you do your motivational statements, you collect everything from your college transcripts to medical history stuff, kind of normal entering the military paperwork. And then that gets submitted to a board for whatever community you're applying to. So I think the pilot board that I went for was happening twice a year. So I was getting my stuff submitted for one of those two boards that year, and they review all the applicants, ultimately make the call as who they want.
So that's like varsity basketball, pretty much.
It's just probably a little bit less
list
paperwork.
outside the gym, and I know you've been through that, David, where it's a list outside the gym, and you ain't going in that damn gym if you ain't on the list day two. Like, it's my name on
there. Exactly. Exactly.
Right away. Hey, you got your boy like, hey man, was you on there? Nah, man. You know what I'm saying? You hope he not, but he is. So with the officer, with the flight, flying and being a pilot. How early on did you realize that you weren't going to be a pilot?
So that's a funny story because I was good. I got accepted to it's called SNA, Student Naval Aviator, right? That's what they call you before you're actually a pilot, winged. So I got picked up for it to go to OCS, and I signed the whole flight agreement. We have to go through MEPS as well. So just like that's kind of unique about the OCX experience is you get sent to MEPS with everyone else enlisting in the military. So, I did my physicals there. I was fine. I got to Newport, Rhode Island, where I am now for Officer Candidate School, went through some physicals, and I thought I was good. I was supposed to get an EKG, right? The machine wasn't working. Like it literally was giving some crazy results, and the guy's like, hey, this isn't working. We're just going to have you go see a cardiologist, and they'll just do the full thing, right? And I was like, okay. I go to the cardiologist, they do like an ultrasound of my heart, and she's looking at it and she's like, you got this valve that leaks a little bit, but that's pretty normal. Like I wouldn't worry about that too much. And I was like, sweet, sounds good. So I didn't hear anything. That was on like week 2, I think, of the 12 weeks OCS. Like the very last week of OCS, I was called to my class officer's office upstairs, thinking I was getting my orders to go to Pensacola to go to flight school because everyone was getting their orders like in those 2 days. So I went up there like super pumped, got my orders, and then she handed me a letter from NAMI, which is the Medical Institute for Pilots. I don't know the exact breakdown of it, but it's like their flight medicine institute, essentially. And they gave me a letter from NAMI saying, hey, so we heard about your heart. That's a no-go. That was the summary of it. And then it was this wild game of, my family was coming for my graduation like days later, thinking that I was going to leave with them, right? I was going to go back to North Carolina. I was going to get my stuff together, and then I'd be going to Pensacola from there. Now, I couldn't even commission because I didn't have a community to commission into. So that then turned into 3 months of me waiting around. I graduated, right? But then I was waiting around in student pools, what they called it, which is just, once again, an island of lost toys. People who can't commission or people who have quit OCS for whatever reason, like they dropped on request. People that are also in like medical hold statuses and stuff are in there. So I waited 3 months just kind of doing odd jobs, working in the mailroom, driving a duty van. No rank insignia, khaki belt, no rank insignia, really weird. And then eventually, I had the opportunity to kind of redesignate myself to be a SWO, go on that pipeline. And once I got the check mark from them, I commissioned and, got orders to, USS First Ship. So
okay, so between college and First Ship, right? It's somewhere else you went, right?
Between college and First Ship. Yeah. So I went to OCS in Newport, and then I got my orders. My orders had me go be stashed at SurfPack, right, in San Diego. So they had recently changed it. They used to send SWO ensigns, right? As soon as they got commissioned, they went to their ships, like, right away. They still had school, but they were basically going to their ships as an I-stop type deal. Well, they kind of looked at that process. They said, well, the SWO boss at the time said, I don't want unqualified or untrained, rather, ensigns just stepping on ships that don't know anything. So then they made a requirement for BDOC, the Basic Division Officer course, to happen before you got to your first ship. So I was like one of the first people actually impacted by that guidance. So I got stashed at SurfPack just doing, random admin work with the group there before my BDOC started. So I did that for like 6 weeks, I want to say. I went to BDOC, and then I got to the ship after graduating.
BDOC always seemed to me like the combine, man. Like you ever heard them talk about an officer?
Yeah, I hear some stories. Yeah, I be
hearing
hearing the stories too.
He running a 40
Yeah.
in like 4.4.
It's BDOC's a really funny environment because it's for a lot of people the first, at least for in my case, it was the first like SWO training I really got. They do a little bit of stuff in OCS, but it happens so fast and so abruptly, and you're doing it with people who aren't going to be SWOs, so they don't care, right? So, but BDOC's the first time you really kind of get into a ship simulator, and you got to drive a ship around, and you got to start learning stuff that you've never even seen, right? They're teaching you about, vertical offset, fire main loops. It's like I don't even know what fire main is,
Yeah.
So it's, or they're talking, they're teaching you stuff that I had no context for. Now the people that were in the room with me, most of them had been in their ships, so they knew. I had no idea like what was going on. I remember getting in the ship simulator for the first time and just backing straight into a cruiser, just like destroying it. And just thinking like, man, like this isn't really super easy, like, or it doesn't come to me as naturally maybe as it did to other people.
Yeah.
So if you were to think of it like as the combine, that's fair, except it's like the combine, except half the people there have never played football and the other half have. So it's like, it's an interesting group of people and definitely interesting results, which is cool now to be an ADOC, right? The second Divo Tour schooling. And now people are kind of standardized in what they know and don't know.
Because I know when y'all go through BDOC, the word is like, hey, such and such is coming. He's okay. And such is coming.
Yeah, I will say that it's funny how we kind of start to understand our community really well. At OCS, you meet a few people who are going to be SWOs. And then at BDOC, they're all SWOs, right? So you start to meet and learn people and understand like who you like, who might be a problem, so that whole idea. Also, there's some people that they have rough starts at BDOC, or maybe they don't pass something on the first time, and maybe they get unfairly or sometimes fairly kind of judged because of that, because it's like, well, they were supposed to be here then, but then this happened. So some people are kind of fighting for their reputations before they even get the ship because of what happens at BDOC. So
Yep. So I got a question for you, sir. So what's the path? Like when you get on a ship, or even before you get to the ship, what is the officer path to success? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to go, when I mean job wise, are you trying to go like your first Divo tour and then you trying to be nav like you're doing now? Or are you trying to be something else? What's the path the ideal path anyway that you want to try to follow?
I guess for the SWOs, right? Because, it's hard to speak to how other communities kind of encourage officers to succeed or how they want them to develop. Yeah. At least for the SWOs, I know the idea is that you got to get on your first ship and you have to get qualified, right? That's the thing that they always stress is, no matter kind of what happens with it, unfairly, in my opinion, but no matter what happens in your division or what kind of chief you have or what he does, like you still have to have a keen focus on getting qualified, because that's, it's a requirement to move on. So first and foremost, you got to get qualified. So you have to figure out, what qualifications do I need to obtain? What are the prerequisites? What kind of watch UIs do I need to be standing? Or what kind of evolutions do I need to be inserting myself into? Who can help me study this topic? So that's huge. Number one, you got to get qualified, I think. Number two, you have to at least obtain a basic understanding of how to be a division officer and how to just be a leader in the Navy. And that kind of comes with working with your chief, hopefully, or if you don't have that good chief, someone who's going to take care of you, whether it be a DLCPO, a first class in your division, a first class in your department, or another chief in your department. Someone kind of has to show you the way of being just a leader and a manager on board a ship. Ultimately from there, like once you've kind of gotten I know how to be a Divo piece as far as leading in the division and got the good path to being qualified, I think then the route is being a good watch stander, being a good OOD, right? The junior officers stand, for the most part, bridge watch. Now, there are people that move on, they stand watches in combat, they start working on their EAL, but the goal is for them to be proficient ship handlers and decision makers on the bridge. So I think if we're looking at the standard of succeeding, you're getting qualified, you're a good Divo, you need to be a great bridge watch standard, or you need to be someone that can be relied upon to keep the ship safe at night or during an unrep or during a scene anchor or something to that effect. And then really from there, you kind of get into the extras if you can do them. You want to get your EAL. You want to, if you can get down in combat and sit, surface or air warfare coordinator type stuff. and start looking at kind of what's going to be required of you as you like go towards the department head level.
Now,
So
is it competitive in the wardroom?
I would say that there's a level of competitiveness there, yes, but really most of the competition I think is kind of with yourself. There are other people that it's just like any pay grade in the Navy, right? You're going to be evaluated against those people at some point when you do your your fitness reports. But it's, as far as divos go, there's a lot more camaraderie there and kind of family there than there is competition, because we all understand it's a grind. We all understand how hard it is to get qualified, or how hard the experience is of first tour division officers. So what I liked about the wardroom, at least with the divos, is that there was teamwork and to make sure people understood what they needed to get qualified. There was teamwork in, hey, can you please cover my watch? I have to do X, Y, and Z, or can you just help me with this? So there is competition in a sense, but it's not, the competition, in my opinion, never outweighs the community family side of it, at least in our wardroom. There are certainly wardrooms where there are toxic wardrooms out there where people, are competing with each other. They don't want to help people, but I think that's less prevalent.
Yeah. Well, from me as a, one of the chiefs, I was kind of competitive because of USS last ship. We had a board outside the wardroom, and it had little stickers on it. On the divos getting qualled and where were they, the status of their quals and stuff. So I remember all the time telling my divo, like, what's going on? We need to get these quals, check marks on these quals need to get knocked out. But you're right though. My divos were never like competitive like that, but I was being competitive towards it though, because I want him to get qualified and get his stuff knocked out. So
now for me, I will say, like, I can't just act like I'm the most, humble person here. Like, in my head, I'm outwardly nice to people and I want to help people, but in my head, it's like, I got to beat them. Like, I got to do this. I got to beat them to this qual. I have to do better than them at this. Like, so most of that competition, though, I feel like is most people internalize it. It's, they push themselves to maybe try to be better than those around them, but they're never like outwardly like putting people on the wrong path or misleading folks in the wardroom.
Yeah. And it's a big difference when you say that, because the difference is, yes, I want to beat you, but I also want to bring you along. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest difference.
Of course, I want to finish first, but I'll carry you to second.
I want to kill, and I want us to be the best team possible. You know what I'm saying? I want to be a killer on the best team. Yeah. I was telling them that when I got pinned to senior chief, like, I want to be the best that I can be, but I want everybody around me to be the best that we could be as well. You know what I'm saying? All right, so first day. No on a ship, was the well, no, because you did like a midshipman tour in the war room before. Did you ever do a midshipman tour and you ate in the war room on another ship?
No, because I went to OCS, right? So I never had any sort of I did nothing Navy oriented
so you go
until I was in as an officer.
So the first time you ate in the war room was when you first entered the ship.
My first day.
Okay, so how is that experience? Just the introduction into the war room experience.
It's super weird. I'll say that because one, you don't. So they build it up. Anyone that doesn't know anything about a wardroom, right? You have to ask the most senior person there if you can sit down and eat with them, which seems archaic, but it's tradition. It's something we follow. The thing is, you don't know who anyone is, but everyone knows that you're new. So I remember it being awkward, just like walking in, and I think it was like our old stow. Who I always had funny interactions with, period. But I remember it was like our old stow. He's just like looking at me sideways, and I asked to join him. I think I asked the wrong person, so he like points at someone else, like, "Oh, it's not me. Hey, you gotta ask him." And so then I finally asked the right person. I awkwardly sit down because I'm seated. Then I realized I had to go stand up to like get my food, so I awkwardly sit down, and then I awkwardly stand up and cross the room. No one's really talking. Like it was super strange. And I remember thinking like, it just. Normal social experiences with humans, that was probably one of the weirder ones I've ever had. Like at least a new guy moment.
Yeah,
that
it's cut like you feeling like Oliver Twist in that. It's just cut like that. Especially when everybody's like known each other and they all talking and like coking and joking, and you just kind of got to be quiet. If you insert yourself, no matter what you say, might sound weird and shit like that. Like that's how it is when you walk in the Chiefs mess. For the first time, it's a little different because. You kind of greet. I remember walking in there and somebody was like, "Hey man, you need to introduce yourself." You know what I'm saying? I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna grab my food first, and then I'm gonna introduce myself, man." So
It's funny because I think about going to my next shift, and I thought about how easy it was. You just go in the wardroom when it's packed, and you just like get everybody's attention. Hey, I'm so and so. Like I'm gonna sit down now. You know, like I know I'd probably never do that, but at least that would like slice a lot of that
Yeah, man.
weirdness off.
I think one of the like great
Yeah.
things about the Navy is the fact that you could be new over and over and over again. You could be the new guy, and I love it. I told my friend, man, it used to discourage me. Like when I was a junior seller, like, man, like I gotta prove myself again to this group of people. They don't know me, they don't know my background, they don't care about it. I gotta prove who I am. Now I cherish the moments when I don't know some shit. Like, yeah, I love that I like don't know this yet. Cause one day I'm gonna notice and I'm gonna be the guy, you know what I'm saying? But I love not knowing it. I love learning from those mistakes. We was just talking last week about me having duty and just how how bad it was for me. You know what I'm saying? So, but I love those moments, man.
For sure.
Yeah, I was talking about like when the first time you make chief and you go in chief mess until like now, like right, like when I first went in there, yeah, didn't say nothing, didn't talk, try to ease my way around. But now I go in any chief mess and I go in and introduce myself and be like loud and be like whoever I want to be. But that comes with the time and and doing it for a while and stuff like that. But I remember my first time, man, it took me a minute to like get comfortable.
I remember
in there.
I remember when CMC when I first got to the ship after I made chief, and we would do the creed. We would do Chiefs training and we would do the creed. And I just knew, I'm like, yo, when they call me, somehow I'm gonna fuck something up. Like I just knew it. Like I'm like, yo, I'm gonna fuck something up. You know what I'm saying? So, and all I know at this point was like about from doing the creed is from when I was a chief select. You know what I'm saying? So I know how to so it's like attention to the seller's creed. So I remember when they was like, all right, Damo, do the creed. And I'm like, attention to the seller's creed. And then Julia was like, what you doing, man? like why you And then
I remember that.
That's another reason why I had to work hard, man. Cause he was clowning me for that shit. And I ain't want him to know me. I had to overcome my attention to the creed moment, so I had to work hard. I was busting my ass on that paperwork so he could forget that, man.
That's
man.
Funny.
All right, so the culture. All right, the culture in the war room, right? I mean, only war room that you know the most about, of course, is your right. War room. But I remember a few moments, just being semio, and I can't get too deep into it, where I was reminded that the culture could be pretty cutthroat. Is that how is that? What is that?
I don't know if I'd necessarily call it cutthroat. I'm sure it's different than the Chiefs mess. And that in the Chiefs mess, you guys are a fraternity, right? Everyone is, on the same page, and you're equals. I mean, in a lot of ways. Like obviously, there's CMC and your DLCBOs, but you guys are equals in that at least you treat each other as brother and sister. The wardroom is different because you're eating with the captain, and the XO and your department heads, your direct supervisors. So it's a little bit different in that respect. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it cutthroat though. The wardroom can just be kind of the SWO culture, at least the older SWO culture is kind of like, SWOs eat their young. They're really hard on divos. You're going to have unpleasant experiences. The culture, I think, or at least the culture of the community is getting better. And on our ship, I think it was, one of the better examples of a wardroom probably in the Navy. So I never really felt like it was cutthroat per se, but.
Now, does that change as commanding officers change the tone of the wardroom? Is that something that you could observe would change?
I think the commanding officer has way less of an impact than most people would think.
Okay.
Because ultimately, most of the wardroom are first and second toward division officers, right? And then even some LDOs and warrants. Like we make up the majority, which it was pretty funny. We left something to a vote one time in the wardroom about having bylaws, right? About having rules. And obviously it lost a majority vote because the majority of the people in there were divos that didn't want to do that nonsense or whatever. So, but I think it's funny that we make up most of the wardroom. So we kind of define for the most part what the culture looks like, at least for most of the group. So, your first and second toward divos, your warrant officers and your LDOs, I feel like they're more of the culture than your department heads and the XO and CO are. Now, when we're talking about strictly like being in the wardroom for a meal or something, a weird captain can make the conversation really weird. Or, but in terms of just the wardroom as like a community construct, I think that the divos defined what that looks like for the most part.
Okay. I remember when I was on ROM and I called you. I was in I called you. I was having a conversation with a Divo, a new Divo who hadn't, been on the ship yet. And we were talking and, and the whole time I'm talking to him, like, man, like that real life experience is going to be shell shocking, because I'm like, hey, what do you think that you need to know when you first, go on a ship? And he's like, yeah, I need to know my 3M. I need to know my basic DC. I need to know. Now, I'm not laughing. I hear you laughing. I'm not laughing.
It's kind of funny.
It might be kind of funny. But he's like, yeah, I need to know my 3M. I need to know my basic DC.
Yeah.
And I need to understand.
Weeks.
Like, something like that. And I'm like, and I was like, yo, at that moment, I was like, fuck. I need to call. I was like, I need to call Lieutenant J.G. Davis. I need to talk to some Divo that I could find at the moment because Mr. Castaneda had left at that time too. So I'm like, I need to talk to a Divo that I've worked with for a while so they could tell this guy a little bit more of like the truth. You know what I'm saying? So, but you do right now. I know we got some Divos that's probably on their way to the first ship that read every single black and white, document that they feel like they could read. And that, as good as that is and as valuable as that is, what's one of the most valuable kind of things that you need to know going into that first division?
Yeah. So I laughed a moment ago because like what he was saying is kind of what we're preached to, right? You need to get qualified. Thou shalt get qualified. So he's talking about like what you need to know. He's thinking about, qualifications to get qualified. I got to know this. Mm-hmm. I think what's more important is that you know your job and you know your people and you know what's going on around you, because the qualifications and the knowledge, it will come. We have 30 months on our first tour to get qualified, right? Now, people want to press you to do that faster because you can do it much faster, obviously, than the time you're afforded. But, some people use their whole time, and that's okay, too. The thing is, the knowledge will come. What will not come is setting a bad impression on your sailors and in your division and your department. So if you show up and you just simply want to be worried about qualifications and you want to let chief or first class run things, that's a problem. Because one, you're not developing as a leader. You're not understanding what your division does or what your people do, kind of what makes them tick. The problems they're having both as sailors and as, just human beings outside of the ship too. So I think number one, you got to know your job. You have to know, because you are this black and, you're the black and white so-and-so officer. You in a sense are supposed to embody that division and what they do. So if you don't know your people's jobs or kind of their structure, what they go through on a day-to-day basis, you're wrong in that, because you represent them, whether you know it or not. And part of that is working with your chief to develop that relationship. So you have to own what you do first and foremost. And I think that's more important than getting on ship and day one, getting a 3M 301 PQS, or your 304 PQS. It's first of all, figure out where your rack is, figure out where you pee, figure out where you eat lunch, and then immediately get started figuring out your people and your role on that ship and how you're supposed to interact with your sailors. I think is more important than anything, because that will set you up for success. People knowing that you're an effective division officer that cares, that puts in the time, that's going to propel you to get quals. It's going to propel your chain of command to trust you in maybe a UI position or something that they don't necessarily want to give another Divo who doesn't really, provide value to the ship or to the, the mission.
Yeah.
I tell you, I had a wake up moment before when I was a brand new chief and I had my Divo, and we had the XO call us up there to his stateroom. This was on my first ship, and the XO was a captain. So we go up there, and time we get in there, we stand up, and he's talking about some maintenance stuff, which I don't know why Full Birds has been talking about this maintenance stuff, but he talking about, I think it was a training thing. That's what I think it really was. And he told me not to talk, pretty much. Hey, I don't want to hear from you, Chief. He said I don't want to hear from you. And he asked my Divo a question, and my Divo didn't have a clue. And that was my wake up moment as a chief, because we wasn't on the same page. I didn't give, and it wasn't his fault.
Right.
It was my fault, because I knew the information, but he didn't know the information. Now, to my defense, I didn't have a time to tell him, but still the fact that I didn't know he was going to ask that question on the way up there, you know what I mean? But that was my wake up moment. Like, hey, when I know something, I got to make sure that we share this information. We on the same page. And I remember, man, that being my like wake up moment, because the whole time he's talking to the Devo, he's looking at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
He's looking right at me because he know I didn't share this. It really, he getting on the Devo, but at the same time, he looking at me because I didn't give him that information.
Yeah,
and I remember that being my wake up call right there.
That happened to me before, man. I went up to talk to the XO, same XO we've been talking about. When I went up to talk to the XO, and I was with, matter of fact, I'm coming down from somewhere, and I see Devo. Devo like, hey, we need to go talk to XO about this light. So he goes to tell the XO that we changed out the light. He's like, hey, sir, we changed the light. It was a bad balance. So I'm sitting there, and I'm still kind of new. So he was like, well, what is a ballast? Like, how does it look? He throw like 100 questions at him in like 8
when he
seconds.
knew though, he knew the answer.
What's
though,
a
right?
ballast? How does it look? Yo, he ain't no shit.
Oh, he didn't know?
He was like, no, he didn't know. And like, so the whole time he was like, I told you. And this really fucked me up. Because he was like, I told you to find out what a ballast was before you came back up here. And I'm in my head like, damn, I ain't know none of this shit. So we get out the the XO stateroom. I'm like, hey, dude, from now on, make sure I know what we like going into, dude.
Oh, man.
So, after that, that's why I was like, when you came, I was well prepared for those kind of moments. Like, all right, we going to be good to go. I'm not going to talk. He'll talk. If I have to talk, I'll talk, and we good to go. Because that was a bad setup, man. I just watched him get shot at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that you Devo's got to take pride in knowing that stuff, too, because I feel like I always wanted to be able to go somewhere without you. I didn't want you to be tailing me everywhere I went. So I remember thinking, like, I got to get up to speed because I want to just go talk to Chang, XO, CO, and be able to explain what's going on and not need EMC over my shoulder. Now, if it was important, I'm going to bring you, right? Because I feel like I could jump back in the electro job today, but I can't necessarily tell you what was wrong with that scullery, But still, like, I wanted to at least have a basic level of understanding so that, I could kind of operate independently for the most part and backfill you later. And I think you have to take some pride in knowing your job, and knowing what you do to kind of get to that level.
Yeah. Well, I got to get one more story in, man. Before
What happened?
about the same XO we was talking about too. Is that I had my Devo with me, and I guess alone maybe back 2 days ago, the XO caught my Devo in the P-way and asked him about this wrench that was missing, in the P-way. So how about the XO that went to that same spot and the wrench wasn't there, right? So we go up there to talk about something totally different, and guess what? We did not even talk about what we went up there to talk about. So the first question was, did you replace that wrench? He already knew he didn't replace the wrench. He just left there, right?
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there because I didn't know anything about a wrench. I didn't even know about it. He just asked the Devo about this wrench. I didn't know about the wrench, nothing. So, man, he ate my Devo up there, and I'm feeling bad because he didn't let me know me. He's like, oh, you want to step up? I was listening to it, man. Just ate him up there, man. Time we left out that door, man, we got that wrench. And put that wrench up there for him, man. I said, sir, I'm going to save your life right now. Let me go with this wrench.
That's crazy, man. Hey, I do want to take a second and read something real quick. The 13 U.S. service members killed in Kabul airport attack, what we know so far. Yes. A flag flies at half-staff at Miramar National Cemetery on Friday in San Diego after more than 170 people and 13 U.S. service members were killed in a terrorist attack outside the airport in Kabul.
Yeah, man. Sad.
We try to stay away from a lot of the super tactical or political stuff that got to do with the Navy and talk more about personal stuff, job stuff like that. But that's a hurt piece. None of these people really, in my opinion, needed to die. Rest well to these people as well. This episode is also dedicated to everybody that we lost in that one. And I know you normally got something real good to say about these things, so I do want to turn it over to you and see if you got any input on this one.
I just say, obviously, the heart has to go out to those families and those Marines and the sailor we lost. Everyone who has social media, I just encourage you to take a moment. If you open up Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what have you, you're going to see their faces, right? You need to see their faces. You need to read their names. You need to understand that we lost these people in an attempt to both get out, our civilians and diplomats from Afghanistan, as well as those Afghanis who have helped us. I think that it's worth noting that we knew this attack was going to happen, right? We had directed civilians to stay away from the airport because we had credible intelligence that attack was going to happen. So I do have some concerns and questions over why those folks still passed away, despite the fact that we had this intelligence. And, maybe more could have been done either on the ground or at the kind of Pentagon level as far as directing our movements for that day's evolution. Obviously, more is going to come out on this. Just encourage everyone right now that, there's a lot of people spun around the ball with this whole Afghanistan thing. There's, people go from being couch potatoes to strategic military thinkers when stuff like this happens, right? Your average person. I just encourage those folks to take a moment to step away kind of from the debate and the politics and to look at those people we lost and understand the sacrifices our service members make every day out in the real world. And this is not just the folks we lost in that airport attack. These are the folks we've lost throughout the entire Afghanistan campaign. It's the folks that we've lost in collisions at sea. It's the folks that we've lost in aircraft mishaps and other troops and sailors around the world. So understand that we're in a dangerous profession and people have to appreciate that. And, before you go post your next hot take on Afghanistan, look at those people, understand the sacrifice they made, and just take a moment of silence to understand the ultimate sacrifice that many of our service members get.
And it could be any of us.
Yeah, most definitely, man. It's a sad, but you brought up the making the ultimate sacrifice. Also, one of the new things we've been doing is reading off the Medal of Honor recipient, right? Speaking of the ultimate sacrifice, and today I want to read off Edwin Joseph Hill. He was a chief boatswain mate. He died December 7, 1941 in the Pearl Harbor attack. He was on board the USS Nevada, and I'm going to read his citation. For distinguished conduct in the line of his profession, extraordinary courage and disregard of his own safety during the attack on the fleet in Pearl Harbor by the Japanese forces on 7 December 1941. During the height of the strafing and bombing, Chief Boatswain led his men of the line handling detail of the USS Nevada to the quay's cast-off lines and swam back to his ship. Later, while the forecastle attempting to let go of the anchor, he was blown overboard and killed by explosion of several bombers. So, for people who didn't understand that, he started on the pier and he sent the lines off the ship. Then he swam back to the ship and got back on the forecastle, continuing to fight, and then got blown overboard. And that's somebody that's out there that paid the ultimate sacrifice. And that's why we are reading these citations out every week. Because there's people out there that really deserving. And we most definitely going to keep reading these out, man.
Yeah. Hey, he got his ship underway.
Yeah.
He got his ship underway, then he swam to the ship. Yo, that's crazy, man.
I was about to say, if there's a boatswain museum, he has to be like the greatest boatswain that ever lived. Like that story is incredible. Like every phase of that was his, and he owned it until the last moment.
Yeah, he did his job, man. He understood the assignment. He did his job, man. That's crazy. I know we was talking about it earlier because his citation is not as long as like Lieutenant Murphy's, but that's a crazy thing. The difference between him and Lieutenant Murphy is that he was a boatswain's mate, and Lieutenant Murphy was a SEAL. Like he had all of that training. He learned a whole lot, and he was prepared. He was prepared for that moment. This boatswain's mate just as ready as he was for that moment. He never really probably had training, and who knows how you react when you're under enemy fire. And he did what a great sailor, great chief, great military member would do. And he paid he paid the cost. he paid the ultimate, cost, but he saved a whole lot of lives in the process. So I mean, hats off to that. Hats off to him, man. I do have a question that I've been holding it for a while, but I think I'm gonna ask it right now. It's about midterms, CDBs, and if like what it midterms and CDBs, right? I'm gonna start off with you, Damon.
I love them. I love them.
Why?
I love doing them, but what I do think, I think they should be more standard though, which is it's getting there. But I love them because you get to talk to the sailor and find out their thought process, what they thinking, and then you can also try to lead them down the right path. It's tools out there now that can help out sailors when leading them right on the right path. You got the ladder, things of what they working on, and help them to get what they at. Because most of the people you are doing CDBs with, most of them are your rate, right? Mm-hmm. And they want to get, they may not say it, but they want to get where you at, in what you doing and how you doing it. So that's a time you can sit down one-on-one, pick their brain, and hopefully they pick your brain also. But then you can also tell, on what type of sailor you got. You can ask the right questions. Depending on how you ask your questions, you can kind of tell what type of sailor you got also. And then you want to lead them down the right path. And then you want to truly make them feel like you care about what they doing. That's how people gonna work for it. That's how people gonna run through walls for you when your knowledge, right? I'm a firm believer in people follow knowledge, right? So from my experience with CDBs is make sure when you go into a CDB, be prepared. I've seen it too many times where we just get in there and sit down and I hear people talking, they just pulling stuff out of they butt somewhere they done before. My thing is have your list of questions you want to ask this sailor. Have a plan when you go in. And when you have a plan, everything kind of falls in place. If you don't, you're not accomplishing nothing. And your sailor know you didn't accomplish anything when they leave out of there. So that's my biggest take when you go into CDB or midterms or whatever. And one more piece, I was talking about kind of like CDBs. My other midterm that we did at our last command, everybody wasn't on the same page with it. Everybody didn't like it. Me personally, I liked it. And what I'm talking about is we pretty much wrote a full eval and got ranked during our midterm, right? I liked it. I liked it because the fact that you kind of know where you at, and it was straightforward. If you got, say, 15 chiefs, when you leave out of there, you're going to know what you need to work on, to get to that next level or get to wherever you're trying to get. And I kind of like that. I know it's a lot of times it was strength and weaknesses and all this type of stuff. I kind of like the fact that we wrote an eval, we know where we at, and it wasn't sugar-coated. In my experience, when we did it, it wasn't a sugar-coated thing. It's pretty much telling you where you at right now. So I like that.
Is it value in the Divo being at any of those?
Yes, it's 100%. And that's another piece that I, because of the fact of you don't know, your sailor may want to be an officer or maybe want to be, instead I'm saying be like my rating, he may want to be more like what your Divo doing. You never know, but my thing is making sure we put out that information and they know and they knowledgeable about the things they want to do in their career. And I think with the Divo being there also, another thing I like to do is just like we do at quarters. Me and the Divo, before we do that CDB, we're going to be prepared. I'm not going to go in there and do all the talking. I want my Divo to talk too. I want everybody to talk. So we're going to go in there and be prepared also together. Mm-hmm. So most definitely valuable for the Divo to be there.
Now, question about the Wardroom. Just the officer and community, period. Is it anything that you think it could be lacking or anything that, we could be doing a little differently or better or or just any kind of way?
Do you mean like for the officers or just for
the community
general?
As a whole? Is it like, how does it like the visual, the diversity, any improvements? Because
Right.
I mean, me personally, I think our most senior leadership on a khaki level, even with the Chiefs, I think a lot of us look the same still. You know, I think if you put the top people in the room together, those people look the same. So.
Yeah, I will speak to that. I'm glad you brought it up. I do think it's funny, diversity-wise, how you look at our force, at least in the Navy. The Navy is probably the most diverse branch of the military. I think when you look at the folks serving on ships, you see representation from all 50 states, multiple countries. You have people, citizens, non-citizens, just the backgrounds these people come with as far as age, you know, family or no family, ethnic makeup, sexual identity and preference. Like that whole thing is, it's a huge array of folks. And I always think it's funny, like deck arguably is the most diverse, the division you're going to see on most ships. But I bet the first lieutenant's white. Like that's kind of the funny thing. If you look over the deck quarters on a forecastle and you see the young white dude, he's probably the divo. And I think that speaks to the fact that unfortunately the officer corps in terms of diversity is behind the rest of our force. Now, how do we correct that, or how do we encourage more diversity? I think there's a few things that could probably take effect. Number one, I think we need to continue to look for more ways to take top performing enlisted personnel and make them officers, right? Whether that be through things like, you know, OCS or Stay 21, or even more of the CWO, LDO pipelines. Like we need to find ways to take top talent and diversity in the enlisted force and get them to the officer rank so they can continue to excel and kind of contribute a perspective and experience that we don't have a lot of as far as just, you know, entry-level officers. Number two, I think we need to look at the places where we're recruiting officers from. So like what I spoke to earlier is like trying to find an officer recruiter is difficult. You often have to go to a large city. You have to go to like a Charlotte, you know, an Atlanta, Tampa, or a Miami, or New York City. If you're kind of living in upstate New York, you have to go to a large city to like find an officer recruiter. And I think that's problematic. I think that more of our colleges, specifically HBCUs, need to have some sort of officer liaison, an officer recruiter, or at least someone that can get folks in touch with the proper personnel. And we need to look who we're recruiting out of. Unfortunately, most of our, you know, you look at most of our admirals, our 06s and 05s kind of in command, and most of them, unfortunately, are just the kind of cookie cutter, straight white dude. I will say the Navy has done a great job in like promoting females to be at least CEOs of ships. Right now, I think there's, you know, a record number of women commanding ships and being put in positions of higher responsibility, and even as flag officers. But obviously, that's only possible if we're recruiting ensigns, right, and valuing diversity, because ultimately, I think that's what makes us more effective than our competitors, is that we have diversity. We're going to look for the best decisions, you know, the best policies. We're going to avoid a lot of the groupthink because we have different perspectives and backgrounds that we can contribute to our processes. Okay. Or processes, rather.
Worst moment. What was your worst moment as a Divo so far?
My worst moment as a Divo so far. Okay, so I'll speak. This is definitely my worst moment as a Divo. So we were getting ready for in-serve. So I was in deck at the time, was getting ready for in-serve. At this time, I did not have a chief at all. It was me and another officer. Shout out Andrew Shugan. You know, we kind of went through a lot of hell together. But it was me and him, and it was, you know, we had, you know, BM1, and we had the rest of the deck, and we're getting ready for in-serve. Now, there was a lot of stuff that we had to fix. There was a lot of stuff that was not correct, equipment that had to be fixed, you know, instructions and other stuff that had to be updated, and just the kind of the way we did business had to be changed. So there I was, kind of me and my other Divo working to lead some sort of huge initiative to kind of fix the things we've been doing wrong and be materially sound for in-serve. I distinctly remember we had been working all day. You know, deck was doing the whole sunrise to sunset thing because we're working outside. We can only really work during the daylight hours. And I had a sailor. We were basically finishing up. I'd cut the guys out. We had the J-bar davit down. We had to get it back into the flower pot, is what we call it. So I remember most people had left, and I was telling the sailor, like, hey, like, I need your help with this, basically. Like, and he said, no, you know, BM1 let me go. I'm gone. And I was, like, confused. Like, I was, like, really taken back. I was like, I just told this guy, like, I need your help with something, right? And he just kept going. Like, he was off. He was done. I remember the sailor got down to the pier. So I'm on the forecastle. I'm looking down at him. I'm staring from the pier. And we're having this whole back and forth. And I was like, I told you, like, I need your help with this. Like, get back up here, blah, blah, blah. And he thought I was joking, or he didn't understand, like, what I was saying to him at first. And I remember I got upset, like I got super upset, and I was basically like, "Hey, I don't care what BM1 told you." And I remember doing this, and I don't know why I did it, but I like grabbed my collar, right? I grabbed my collar and my freshly sewn on JG bars, and I remember saying like, "I told you to come up here. Like this is. I don't want to get into the whole like I'm an officer and you're not, but like I told you to come up here and I need your help." And he that like from a respect perspective, I understand made him angry, like super angry. I was angry, I was hot, and it turned this whole thing. Sailor ends up leaving. So we talk about it the next day, and that's when I kind of realized, like, there was 1,000 different ways I could have handled that, right? Obviously, there was 1,000 different ways he could have handled it, but I think in that moment I lost touch with who I was and what I was doing, right? I became more concerned in that someone, I felt disrespected, and I had that moment of, like, no, like, you owe me this. Like, you have to do this for me. And I wasn't looking at the human side of kind of what was going on, how much I'd asked from these guys for weeks. And even the weeks that followed that, all the shit I put them through, all the kind of stuff we were working towards. And that's when that moment boiled over. And I kind of thought about it as, I got to handle that differently. I have to carry myself differently. I can't let those like thoughts kind of push to the forefront of my brain when I get angry or if I have situations with sailors like that. So I always think that's a moment. I don't regret a lot of stuff. That's a moment I regret like immediately after it happened.
That's crazy. You told me the story before.
Man,
you told me the story before. I wish I remembered it when I did the Corns Ferry.
The survey. This guy has a real problem.
Hey,
the Corns Ferry survey.
I tell you what, sir. Me knowing you, that I know if you had to grab those collar devices, he had you hot.
Oh, it was a hot moment between both of us. And that's when I looked at it as like in a man-on-man interaction. Like it's one of those things that it's different professionally than it would be like in the street. Because if it was in the street, we would have just been fighting. On the ship, like we settled it. However, we settled it the next day at quarters. But in that moment, like I felt disrespected. And I didn't know what else to do but to resort to these. Like I didn't know what else I was supposed to say or show him. But I was like, well, I have these. Like this is supposed to mean something. So. I defaulted to my fabric, my collar. So.
Yeah.
That's what we gotta do, though.
It's not super fake. Next time, I'm just gonna fold them in, right? Be like, these don't matter.
That's a bad side.
You gotta have to. I'm folding them in.
I don't know if you want to do that.
Like, these don't matter. See me on the.
Oh man.
Yeah, these don't matter.
Cash
see
me
me
outside.
See me up in Fort Bosun. Like.
What were some of your favorite moments in your first tour?
Favorite moments. I think us getting through, we had a 3-week period. I think it was a 3 or 4 week period. I lost track where we had done DPERM, we did Ready 6, material inspection. We did 3 and 1.4. And I want to say a switchboard clean. There it was. All kind of happened within a 4 week. Every week had like a crazy thing going on. I remember my favorite moments was one, being done with that, being through it, and just seeing kind of how well we had performed, like as a team. People were drained, and we were ready for leave and time off and everything else. But the fact that we got through that as a team and didn't have to come to blows on the pier or whatever, it was kind of I think probably it felt like my greatest moment of triumph on the ship was getting through kind of all that nonsense. And then I would just say, I think my favorite moments as a Divo, this is going to sound generic, is when you watch people who have worked really hard get promoted, right? You watch people get mapped, or they make it on the test, or they get that award, or they get the next thing that they need in their career because of the work they put in. I feel the most moments of pride when you see your sailors, get that Sailor of the Year or put on rank. I remember each of those instances specifically. Even had the opportunity to pin a couple sailors, with ESWAS pins or with crows or whatever, and that's always special. Because they're proud, how much work they put in to be there, and their families at home are going to see the pictures and be super proud of them. And that for a lot of those people, that could be all their family talks about. All their family's hope is in my kid is in the military and he's doing great things. So there's a lot that goes into those moments, and I try to never take those for granted.
Yeah. So here's a crazy story, Damon. So we're going through InServ, right? And the gouging is just acting. Well, you heard some of our InServ because the guys went back and talked to you, but the gouging is just acting crazy, right? Mr. Castaneda is moving, man, like acting crazier than the gouging, right? He's like, I never saw him this like energetic, like he wants to win. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's cool. Like we went from Mr. Davis and Mr. Castaneda. Both of these people just want to win, like super bad. Like, but I didn't know that whatever level that he hit during in-serve, I didn't know he could hit it. Like it was a crazy, and I knew he was really good and sharp. I just didn't know he could be like as like mean as he was. Right? He was like, this dude was like a fireball, man. He's like, what is wrong with these guys, man? We got to get this done. We got like, I'm like, yo, we like, let's go, let's move. Me and him even like lightweight, like clash a little. Like I'm like, sorry, it's gonna get done. Like we got like, but the point where it got really bad was it was something wrong with the gouging. But it was something, and this where, you know, Lieutenant JG comes into play is because the David was fucked up at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Damon, who got to go fix the David? Because we go, and look, at this point in in-serve, I'm like tired. You know, to be honest, I'm like tired. So I'm like, yo, everything good. The guys, all they got left is ground checks or whatever we doing. I could just darken ship. I was like, I could just chill, and then I get a phone call about the David. I'm like, all right, I gotta get that. It's hot too. It's hot. What was like 90 something? It's like, well, it's hot. So
I was burnt.
So I get up there. The David, he could probably fill you in like a better about the actual situation, like why it was so important that we get the David up. But I just remember Mr. Castaneda calling me on the radio, like, EMC, where are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm up here, like I'm on the David, like you got to come up here, like it's like because we like dire need to get this thing fixed. Insert, they're ready to go. So he's like, I need you down here at the gouging. I'm like, yeah, I can't, like because the gouging is going crazy, man. But we wanna like, so that was just like, I think that was the biggest moment that I think like we had, even though we wasn't working no more together. But that victory felt like an EDIV victory, like to me again, where I'm able to just, hey, first we got it done. Let's get out of here. That David was acting crazy though a few times, and it still has problems to this day. But no, I remember my inspector telling me, in deck we have a ton of stuff we got to look at. It's IIG on top of IIG, all kinds of areas. And I remember we had been through a lot of stuff. And we were having issues with the David. I'm just having a casual conversation with the guys, the CW05. And he was just like, yeah, David don't come up, you fail. And I was like, we fail? I was like, what do you mean we fail? We've looked at 35 other things. Like, how is this? He's like, yeah, but this is worth like 20% of your score. He's like, the David and the boats, each of the boats, I think were like something crazy, like 10 points each. So most of your grade comes from the David and the two boats, right? And the guy was just like, yeah, you fail. If it doesn't come on, like, yeah, it's done. And that's when I was like, oh shit, like this is serious. So I remember the first thing I thought was like, I just got to find EMC and I just got to tell him, like, if you don't fix this David, I'm going to fail. And like, it's going to be your fault. It's not, I can't internalize that, but I didn't want to take a failure. Now the David still had problems, but it turned on. So what it could have been, 20 points lost was only 12 or whatever. And we were fine. But, yeah, to this day, that David sucks. So if you're listening to this and you make David somewhere, do better. You need to improve. Like you gotta get better. I was
thinking about one of our just thinking about you guys and us interacting on the ship. And I remember we had this HFF issue where we hit a button and the HFF lighting off all over the places or whatever, right? And we had this interaction. It's like already like me and Damo, man, we working on this HFF thing all day, trying to figure it out. And I remember the XO at the time when we wasn't going home until we figured it out type stuff.
Same XO.
Yeah. Well, same XO. We wasn't going home to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I remember,
man on the moon.
I remember the first time we actually opened up the HFF box. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm normally, okay, we got the SOPVs. We open up there. Got some wires going here. Man, we open up that box. Man, with so many freaking wires in that damn box. I was like, holy shit. We're not, and then it wasn't wired right. They was going like, I remember you telling me things wasn't wired right, but it was to be how much this ship costs, right? That's what I'm thinking about. How much this ship costs. And when you open up that thing and it was so many wires and it wasn't wired right, I was just like I remember being so like upset because I wasn't upset for me really. I was more upset for you because, man, look, how the hell we gonna figure this shit out? Like, because how the fuck we supposed to figure this out when you got so many wires and then you didn't start the process? So, I mean, you don't know where that shit goes. Then you had to figure all that stuff out. But let me tell you, man, when we got that talk, when we said we ain't going nowhere, that we figured it out, man, it was just like, might well just stay on board tonight, man.
Well, you know, a couple of things that happened there was you were there for that one.
Yeah. Which one?
I don't think you was there.
Me?
For that one.
Oh no, you wasn't there. I don't think you was there.
I don't think I was there.
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
Now you were. Oh yeah, you were. You've been there for like 8 years or whatever. Yeah,
the XO at the time. He, you know, we supposed to have his DC inspection like right after that.
Yeah.
So the XO, he's like, yo, it just, I mean, it gotta get fixed. I mean, the DC inspection is on Monday. It has to get fixed. It's a Friday. So I'm like, hey, sir, it's messed up. There's nothing we can do. He's like, go over to the ship across from us and see how theirs is and talk to them. So I went over to the ship. They was like, yeah, ours is fucked up too. It was like, ours is messed up. They was like, ours is messed up. We jury rigged something and figured it out. That's what they said. Yeah. So I came back. I was happy to have that news. You know, like, hey, sir, they said theirs fucked up too. It's jury rigged. There's nothing we can do. He was like, all right, well, you know, just go ahead and, you know, keep trying to figure it out. Then he gave me another option. He was like, and he wasn't being an asshole at all. He was like, another thing you could do is talk to ICC and see if ICC, you know, could help because he knows these kind of things too. And that's when I was like, nah, we about to fix this, man. I'm not going to get, and ICC, that's my dude, love him to death. But I'm like, I am not calling no ICC to come fix my shit. We going to get this thing fixed. So we was up, man, we stayed on that ship damn near all night. And we got it. Garcia was still with us. We got it fixed. Then the next day, these dudes went to op test. It's like the David, man. It's a house of cards, man. You get that thing up, leave it alone. Don't mess with it until the moment you want. They went to do an op test. I remember Treasure, your guy. They go to do an op test, and it is messed up. He was like, yo, it's messed up. I was like, fuck. It was Saturday. We had to come into work. We just had to come into work. Like, and then, what did you come in? You came in too, right?
I think. I was coming in. I think me and you talked, and you said you kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah. So we went in and fixed it. But I mean, you get those things, you get those house of cards things, you get all of that stuff.
I can't stress the fact that the part of just having a divo, man. Like having a divo, man. I'm telling you, you don't know how much that team atmosphere you need. You know, when it comes to both sides of the house. You know, from your admin side and your material side, man. Like, when you have to do both, you really like, man, I need a freaking divo, man, to help me out with this stuff. And I'm telling you, it's when you got like we just said 100 times, man. When you got a good team together, man, that stuff just works out like perfectly most of the time. And of course, you always gonna have your conflicts. You always gonna have your issues and things like that. Sailors gonna be sailors and things like that, man. But when you got a good team around you, man, all those stuff that works out. People don't understand sometimes, man, what happens in your division sometimes is by your reputation. You know, your reputation in division. You don't know, like you can jack something up over here, but when the XOC EE behind it, he might be like, oh, I ain't worried about that. I know that's gonna get taken care of. You know?
And you see that change. Yeah, you see that change. You see that. I've seen it.
Of course.
I've seen it travel from point A to point Z. I've seen it at the point where we super concerned because it's EE. Then I've seen it at the point where, hey, sir, this happened. Boom, boom. All right, chief, I know y'all good. Y'all got it. So I've seen it in both phases. I just did think of something. A junior, I was doing training about stress, and the junior seller asked me, she said, well, where would the leadership go when they get stressed out? Because it's, the EOS program and all of that. So she was like, well, what about if CMC is stressed? What about if the XO is stressed? What about the captain stressed? But so where do divos go when divos get stressed?
That's a great question because there's nothing really set up other than other divos. Like I think when we have issues, we rely on one another just to kind of get us out of it, right? Because it's no mystery that a lot of sailors suffer from stress, mental health issues in their way. The officers and the chiefs certainly do too. It's just not as well defined on who do we talk to, or if, they could be like, well, you can go talk to Doc. Well, I don't want to talk to Doc. If I'm having issues, I don't necessarily want to talk to IDC. I don't necessarily want to talk to maybe whoever the kind of counselors are on board. I'm just going to resort to my brother and sisters, right? My other divos. And that's what we do. I kind of wish we had something like more defined, because there are a lot of divos that suffer underway. And unfortunately, wardrooms are like other organizations. There's in crowds, right? It can even be a bit of a boys club sometimes. So sometimes people can feel excluded from that, and they don't have that same kind of community to fall back on. So I think there are a lot of ways we need to improve mental health awareness in the Navy in general, but specifically for the upper leadership, because it's just assumed we got it all figured out and we have to solve other folks' problems. But oftentimes, like, we have our own problems that just kind of go, unsolved and aren't really dealt with until they reach extremis.
Yeah, I feel like we had a space on the ship for anybody that doesn't know about a ship or anything. But we had a space on the ship, tool issue, and I feel like that was the vacuum sometime, like where you could go and vent. I know, I think the most pissy I've ever been was after quarters. At quarters, like not quarters, the khaki meeting before quarters. So the time periods between the khaki meeting and quarters had to be, for me, like some of my worst moments, like ever. You know what I'm saying? It's been times that I vent with Mr. Davis, times I vent with other officers, times I talked to you right after, David, like, hey, like what the hell? What is this? Yeah. Like, what are we doing? Like this gotta be. There's times that in the meeting, I'm like, hey, hold on, like this ain't it. Like, what we doing? But you gotta have a place, man. Like, cause some of that stuff could be momentary, some of that stress could be momentary. But if you keep it bottled up, you never deal with it or whatever, and then you start snapping on people. And that happened to me when I was at my second command. I was working through lunch every single day. Every day I was working through lunch. And then something happened and I snapped. And I snapped because I was working through lunch. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know if I told this on air before, but in my head, I'm like, man, you got the audacity to talk to me about doing something for work when this is the first lunch break that I've ever taken in the last like 8 days. Because I worked straight through the weekends and lunch. And this was shore duty. And who I was talking to happened to be the highest person in command at the command, so that wasn't the best person, to snap on in the moment, so I got fired as an LPO, and a couple other things happened. Wound up getting the job back, but a couple other things happened, but it was from bottling up. So I told myself, respect my break. I mean, that was something that I've tried my best to do even on a ship, was respect my time that I'm on break, respect my lunch, and try my best to get out the energy, because I don't want to keep it bottled up. But you always been pretty good at handling negative energy, Damon.
Yeah, because I mean, that's mostly because I'm just positive motherfucker, man. And I try. I mean, that's all to it, man. It's no more to it than me just always trying to find the best outlook of it, man, and feel like as long as I'm going home every day, long as I'm alive and see my kids and see my family, this ain't the end of the world. Like when some project come up and it's like, what the hell? I'm like, it ain't the end of the world though. And that's kind of how I took everything. It's not the end of the world.
Well, what's the most pissed you been?
The most pissed I've been in, and it's really not a story. It's been multiple stories like this. But the one thing that really pisses me off the most, and it happens to me, is that when I'm not directly involved, but I'm responsible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like these incidents that be happening, but I really didn't have a hand like into that, but I'm responsible for it. I think that's the biggest thing that gets me really fired up, because I know I would have handled the situation a little bit differently or something. Or if I did jack it up, I'm gonna hold it down because I know I messed it up, and I'm gonna be like, "Yep, that was my fault." But but I still got to take responsibility for it. So I think that's the biggest thing that upsets me sometimes.
Well, before we close, because we'll be closing soon, but what do you like? What's your thought? So I was reading a post on Facebook. Somebody wrote, they were saying like when somebody, they get raised by their parents, the parents put them through school, they teach them, they groom them. When they make a mistake later on in life, the comment is normally, hey, your parents didn't raise you like this. You know what I'm saying? And then they was like, on a ship, if a sailor messes up or does something wrong, it's always a direct reflection of their leadership. Well, who's your chief? Who's your divo? Why is that?
Well, I think it's a twofold thing, man. I feel like the only time, and this is a personal opinion of mine, the only time that I feel like we should be like straight up responsible for anything someone do if it's some information that I did not put out that I should have put out. Right? So if something happens to a sailor and I should have told them, hey, you cannot go here at this time, and I supposed to put that stuff out at quarters, then something happens to the sailor, then he say, hey, did you put this out, Chief? And I'd be like, oh man, I forgot. I think I should be responsible for it. Right? But when sailors out there, you know, for example, drinking and driving, you know, and then it ends up my whole division there, maybe the whole department there, and maybe everybody getting talked to, and maybe, you know, all type of stuff start happening from that. I feel like I'm not directly, you know, responsible for that, you know, in that type of atmosphere though. So I don't know, man. I think it's a twofold thing, man. It depends on what it is. I also know it's not like that. I do know you're responsible for every fucking thing that happens in your division. This is how it is. But I just feel like you know, we shouldn't be, like, on certain cases we shouldn't be though.
That's a weird feeling, like feeling nervous that you got to explain something somebody else did.
Yeah, man.
Adults, grown people,
like, yo,
grown people.
I'm about to get my ass chewed because he gun decked.
Yeah,
like, yo, fuck, man.
Yeah,
like, how do I explain it?
It's always weird for me because it's like I remember being like, I'm 24 years old and I'm explaining the actions of a 32-year-old. Like, I don't know how, in what world I'm responsible for what he did. And that's something me and my newest chief, the newest chief I had, the new BMC, you know, we went through a whole string of sailors going up to mess, right, for all kinds of different stuff. And then it became this whole question of culture. And I was the only really common denominator because I'd been there for a year or whatever. And there was this question of culture and the culture I had built. And, you know, before that moment, I always kind of took the opinion of I'm responsible for everything that happens here, right? But I also didn't have a lot of negative experiences. So it was easy for me to be like, yeah, this went great. I own that. But when things started going really wrong is when I had an issue with the concept that I was responsible for, because there were sailors doing things that you can't, like, I had no impact on. You know, me and Chief were putting out the information. We were telling them the consequences. You know, we gave them our numbers, say, hey, if you have problems, you need to talk to us before it gets out of hand. And they still let things get out of hand. And it happened so much within such a short period of time that the chain of command, you know, I even got, you know, I got my blessings on this from a few people, but I was like, I can't own this. Like, there's certain things that I just can't feel responsible for when a grown person makes a grown decision. You know, I felt more responsible when it was maybe an 18-year-old deck seaman because they just lacked the life experience. But when it's a grown person, like someone my age or older, doing things that have been in the Navy, that know what's going on, that know the rules, like, I can't feel responsible for that. I'll do my best to rectify the situation and let other people learn from it. But that's not a reflection of me. I'm sorry. And I think that's something the Navy is learning now with COs. It used to be a kind of, you know, a zero defect. You have one bad thing happen to you as a CO,
that's crazy,
like you're fired. I think there's been plenty of cases of stuff happening lately where things went wrong and COs retained their jobs. So I'd like to think that we realize accountability is important and it's serious, but you can't narrow everything down to a leader because people are going to make irrational decisions and decisions that they know are wrong, or things are going to go sideways. And it's ultimately not the leader's fault every time.
Yeah, and it's something we used to do where it's like it takes responsibility away. Where we start looking for leadership flaws, or we start looking for other major organizational flaws that might not even exist. Remember, and I ain't talk about this last time. This is the last thing. But remember the fire, right, on the Bonhomme Sharp? Remember what we had to do after that? We had to go do all of these zone inspections, like the whole Navy.
Oh,
like,
the entire ship?
Yeah, such and such to check the ship because you might have all of these, you know, and then come to find out it was arson pretty much. It was a dude who lit this fire. It didn't have anything to do with the conditions of it. Now, the fire spreading and all of that, yes. But the purpose, the reason why the fire started didn't have anything to do with the conditions of the ship or anything like that. And in my opinion, it was us again. In my opinion, it was us looking for major organizational issues that we need to address. Vice, you know, that other part is the accountability of the person that made, you know, the mistake and the impact that mistake made.
Yeah.
Had. And in this case, this person didn't make a mistake. I want to clarify that this person didn't make any mistakes because I think from our last episode, I think a couple people might have. We didn't really talk about him. We talked about the transition between Buds and the ship, but we didn't get into like how heinous this act was. It was a heinous act. it's bullshit. Like, you know, whatever that punishment is, you deserve it.
Yeah. Speaking of that though, that goes back to a little bit about what I was thinking before when we was talking about stress and officers and who they got to talk to. We actually had a conversation about this, about, you know, the guy was you a buzz dropout, and then you only thing you know is wanting to be a buzz your whole life, and then you get to a command and you disgruntled and you this, you that, right, from a mental health standpoint. So same thing with like stress. I can't believe that's the answer for officers to talk amongst each other. I feel like we need to do better, you know, when it comes to officers having someone to go talk to. And the same thing with the young sailor, not saying what he did was right or anything like that. I feel like they should have someone to go talk to there. Once they become a buzz dropout or anything like that, they should be talking to somebody like then, before they even go out to a ship or whatever the case may be. And the same thing goes for the officers. I feel like they have to have someone at the command or someone somewhere to talk to all the time, because I know, look, think about this. You're 22, 23 years old, and you a first lieutenant?
Yeah.
Man, that's huge. And then depending on the side of the ship is, look how many people that is. That's going to be 60 people, depends on the ship, that you're responsible for. You know, and I know that has to be a stressful job, you know, just outside looking in.
I definitely want to plug Fleet and Family and all of their services. Fleet and Family got like 600 to 700 different things that they do.
Yeah, right? Most definitely.
And I don't think most people really give them their just due as far as utilizing them. It's like most of this stuff is free, man. You know, they giving people they teaching you like newborn baby techniques and while you pregnant stuff, marital counseling. It's a lot of things that Fleet and Family has to offer that I don't even think we tap into. And I'm afraid that one day they won't be offering those things because they can't fund them if we're not ever, you know, utilizing those things. So that's my opinion on that. Quickly, the movie, right? Top Gun. Oof. We all saw it, right? So I'm going to sit back for a minute. I'll let Mr. Davis talk about Top Gun first, since it has such a major influence on his
life.
Right, my life.
Yeah, so what's your take? And then we didn't pre-watch it or nothing. We just kind of shooting the shit about Top Gun real quick.
I just say that Top Gun kind of embodies everything we love about our country, right? We got a guy on a motorcycle, flying jets, chasing the girl. We got rock and roll music, sunglasses. We got some fierce competition and patriotism at play. I also just think it's an interesting note. I don't remember the name of the actress, but Tom Cruise and his female counterpart in that movie looked pretty similar then. If you were to look at both of them now, like Tom Cruise has had some work done, or he is going through a process where he doesn't age, because they have taken very different routes. I'll just say Top Gun's great. I wish there was a SWO equivalent, you know, where you come by the pier going 12 knots and the guy spills his coffee everywhere, and it'll never be that high speed for us, unfortunately. But I think it's a great movie, a funny movie if nothing else. And then Tom Cruise, like I said, he's defied aging. So when the next one drops, you know, we'll be ready for it. It's been delayed. We thought we were going to get it a long time ago. We thought we were going to get on deployment. That's kind of funny that never panned out. Shout out to our PAO who lied to us on that. But hopefully it comes out soon. We'll all go watch it, and it'll be kind of reigniting the flames from the first Top Gun.
Yeah. So they specifically said, Paramount specifically said they're not going to streaming. So they will not go to streaming. They feel like they got something with Top Gun 2, and they want it to be played in the most theaters that they could play it in. So I feel like whenever we open back up and we are able to go to the theaters, that's when we gonna get Top Gun. They did a lot, man. They filmed it actually in the jets while they, you know, it's Tom Cruise, man. Like, he wasn't gonna do special effects. Like, special effects? No. Like no, I'm gonna be in the jet. We gonna film it like that. What about you, Damon? How did Top Gun impact you?
Hey, one of the best movies of his time, man. And look, from the time Tom Cruise, you know, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I like Tom Cruise, right? Acting. I mean, Tom so Cruise. And anytime that it could be however you think about this. If I ask this question, say, hey, what Tom Cruise movie? Name a Tom Cruise movie. And what movie you would say? Top Gun.
Me?
Top Gun. That's the movie you would say. Top Gun. Right? Every time.
Yep.
I mean, like every time.
100%.
If you yes, you will.
Not Tom.
Listen, if you was on Jeopardy and they asked you about
Tom Cruise,
they would
man.
ask you about
Tom Cruise.
name a movie.
Nope.
Top Gun.
Top Gun.
All day, right? So Top Gun's a good movie for me, man. I like it. You right? I'm just like you guys. I thought I'd been to watch Top Gun 2 already, by now. But that was the movie, man, back then, man. Goose, that's my guy, all those guys in the movie, man. Like we loved that movie growing up, man. Like everybody though. It wasn't like just me. It's like the family. The everybody knew about this movie, and that was one of the movies I remember from Tom Cruise. And from then on, man, like every movie Tom Cruise, I knew Tom Cruise coming out with a movie. It started with Top Gun. If Tom Cruise had went the Mummy, you know what I mean? I want to watch the Mummy because I watched freaking Top Gun. It's just he made me a fan of himself anyway. So yeah, man, I like the movie, man. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Now go ahead and give your.
It looked like you want to say. It looked like you want to say something over there. Would you?
I got a quick question about another movie, but I want to hear your plug on Top Gun.
Okay, Top Gun. It took me a long time to watch Top Gun. I didn't watch it as early as everybody else. I think I probably watched Top Gun for the first time about 5 years ago, to be honest. Probably right before getting to the ship. It was everything that an American movie should be. It's the cookie cutter like movie.
The whole
like,
nine.
Everything that should happen in a movie, it happens. It follows all the rules. Just like Star Wars, just like the first Star Wars. Like it follows all the rules to a T. It's the great American movie. And I know that it's responsible for a lot of people, joining the military. A lot of officers, a lot of people wanting to be pilots. And my biggest Top Gun is good. It was cool seeing some of the places that they filmed it at when I actually finally got to San Diego. Like most of the places we went to were places that, was in Top Gun. And I'm glad I was so connected to it because I had just saw it. But what I want to see more out of this is if the second movie has the same impact as the first movie, if it could do the same thing, because I don't see the Navy right now being as cool a place. This is just me being honest again. Yeah, being as cool a place to join as it was after Top Gun came out. That intrigue is not there right now. To me, it's people that's trying to go to college or certain things that they trying to do. I don't think that intrigue's there. So let's hope that Tom Cruise could do it again with Top Gun 2. Maybe, maybe not. Do we think Top Gun 2 will be as good as Top Gun 1?
No. It won't. I mean, no way. No, I don't think so.
We know Val Kilmer. No. Val Kilmer not in it, right? He got throat cancer and all messed up.
Yeah. But speaking of that, Rihanna tried to make it cool, to join, right?
Battleship?
Yeah, she had like 8 ratings in that movie. Like the greatest sailor of all sailor of the year. Yeah. Lava Dog of the month, at least.
You had another movie that you...
I just, as a film guy, I thought it interesting to tell you the last movie I saw, which was The Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Nicolas Cage. Where Nicolas Cage plays a dirty cop in New Orleans who's like addicted to drugs, but investigating a homicide. If you haven't seen it, it's an interesting film, and I recommend you watch it. You can catch it on YouTube.
Okay.
The whole thing's on YouTube. Yeah, like the whole film. I was questioning its authenticity, but the whole thing's on YouTube. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a really interesting take for Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage done fell off though, man. Like man, what's going on with our guy, man? Like, look, and I see he has sit on like Netflix, and I say, oh man, that's Nicolas Cage, but I don't know what Nicolas Cage I'm looking at no more, man. Like I don't know what's going on.
He got like Wally's Wonderful some shit.
Pig. The pig, man. Yeah.
He peaked in that film.
Like 800.
Yeah,
he peaked in The Bad Lieutenant. I'm telling you.
Lieutenant?
Yeah, that's probably his best role, other than stealing the Constitution or whatever.
National Treasure. National Treasure.
Yeah.
I gotta check that one out. All right, my book. I might have talked about this book, but I want to bring it up again. It's Your Ship. I'll bring it up again because this guy here is the person that recommended me. We had this moment in time where we were recommending each other, different things. So I would recommend Menace to Society. He would recommend It's Your Ship. You know what I'm saying? So It's Your Ship. I took a lot from that, like a whole lot, man. That was a really cool book. Cool captain. A lot of things that I didn't think about just being a leader. Kind of shown through in reading that It's Your Ship book. I think any leader in the military should at some point read it. I could get more into the title. It's Your Ship, Captain D. Michael Abrashoff is how you pronounce it.
Yep.
Management Techniques from the Best Damn Ship in the Navy. And it's a really good book. It's about when Captain Abrashoff took over the USS Benfold and some things he had to kind of do to increase productivity, empowering some junior sailors in positions that was unexpected and getting things done. And I appreciated that book, so that's my book. You got anything on that one? It's Your Ship?
I just say it's funny for any of the other divos who were there. I presented this book for Wardroom training. It was my very first Wardroom training, and they said, Ensign Davis, teach on leadership, which I thought I was already being set up for failure. They're asking me in my first time to teach leadership as the most junior person in the room. So I brought the book, and I pretty much just spoke to some excerpts from the book. Little did I know my first captain hated the book and I guess had interesting thoughts on the guy. So I kind of got public scolding for bringing it up. And those who were in the room with me that day still remember that was a pretty funny interaction. The other officers seemed to respond positively to it. I had what was our stow kind of saved me on that one. And he said there was something he liked from the book. Other than that, though, the response was mostly negative from the CO.
Oh, man.
But still stand by the book. It's pretty basic in its writing, and if you're in the Navy, you're going to read it. It's written for more of a general business crowd, so it might leave you wanting a lot if you're already in the Navy. But it's just some really basic ideas on kind of empowering those below you to do their job and do it to their best of their ability. And also just there's an ownership piece in there that really speaks to that. I think it's important for kind of any military leader, which is really all of us, specifically divos, and just taking ownership of your program, your product, your division, and kind of selling it to other people at all times and making it the best version you can.
Yeah. Ownership is like a big thing that we need to talk about in the military, probably every day. You got anything else, sir? Anything?
No, I really appreciate this opportunity. If you didn't know, this is my first podcast ever. So I'm hoping this will propel me to Joe Rogan next week. I will see if he's happy with the product. But no, I appreciate both of you. Obviously, as now both senior chiefs, right? I appreciate you as that. I also appreciate you as men, kind of what you bring to the table, what you bring to the fleet, and just who you are as people. So I appreciate you having me on and just let me share the same space with you for a little while.
Hey, so Joe Rogan's number one. He's number one. We're number 170
on our way.
That's pretty good.
Our way.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, number 170 in the government category in Apple Podcasts.
Yeah,
Self-made, everything. And all of that is, of course, without, we can do none of that without the people that listen to us, the people that support us, the people that continue to download our episodes and create conversations off of them. So I really appreciate that. Thanks for giving us some of your time so we could talk to you. We definitely needed that officer angle aspect on our podcast. A lot of times when we have guests, I always think, it's going to be crazy. We can just have a crazy time. And we always get very informative and we get some real good information out of it. And we might forget the bullshit as much as I always think we will. But I always appreciate that we get so much content out of the conversations that we have and the guests we have. And that's what that's where the value is. So I appreciate you giving us some of your time. I know you over there in school and it looks like a pretty fancy place that you're staying in. So
the art, if you see on the wall, I got a lot of watercolors around here. It's Saturday in Newport, so I'm glad you got me my best moment of the day, which is right now in the morning. So no, only negative things will happen from this moment on. So it's good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, sir. We're glad to have you on also, sir. I'm most definitely looking forward to your career and what you're doing in the Navy. And I'm gonna be watching from the outside to see what you do, sir. So keep up, keep pushing, and I know you're gonna do well. And hopefully get you on here again.
All right, of course, just throw me a couple bones when you come to do that inspection. That's all I ask. You know?
Yeah. I got you, sir.
Throw me a couple bones. Yeah.
All right, sir.
All right.
Mission to speak freely.
Peace.